Hello all. So we're going to be going over the Calvin Tucker story by Moses, which is really good. I really like it, and so I've got here. Let's see. Here are the notes from the interview, and here's Calvin's story over. Or I'm sorry, Moses' story over here on the left. Okay. So Moses, this is for you. Let's see. We started out with this really great quote from Tucker, and we did that because it really sums up his whole his whole outlook and his whole reason for voting for Trump. I mean, obviously his reason for voting for Trump is because he's a Republican, but it really is a good way of opening the story um, and and drawing the reader in and just setting the stage for everything that Tucker has to say. All right, so some people say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Among many other things, Calvin Tucker told this to the newspaper staff in February of this year. He entered the school confidently just a month or so after he saw his candidate win the election. See, I like this a lot because, you're giving this man a personality, you're making him more interesting. Um, and I think that the title the story, which just sort of happened naturally as we were working, is, Calvin Tucker, Trump's Man in Philadelphia. That's a good title. It sums it up and it makes people interested because Trump has a man in North Philadelphia and we interviewed him. So this is great. Entering the school confidently. I might even add a little bit more here. I might add, like, about how he was dressed, uh, dressed to the nine, dressed to the nine, looking like a college Republican or whatever. A college Republican is like a club of like these rich guys who wear nice clothes when they're in college and they're into Republican politics. So you could even add a little more there if you want. Trump's win was a boost. It was almost as if it gave him pep and stuff. See, that's the same thing. This is great. So true. Um, Even a Democrat would feel this way if perhaps Hillary had won the election. That's good too. I think I'd make it a little more broad. You could say you know uh, politics is very personal for people. So when a presidential election happens after it's over, everyone sort of you can feel the joy or the sorrow depending on whether or not your candidate won. So I would make this more broad. I would say like politics has the potential to affect the attitudes, etc. Something like that. Instead of saying a Democrat would feel this way, which is pretty obvious, just say like you know, politics is personal, and after an election, you can tell how people respond. And this guy was definitely happy. So something like that. It's really great. You think I'm not sure what this sentence means. If you think of it if you think of it's a comeback for the Republicans for crying out loud. I'm not sure what that means. Try and say that a different way because it doesn't really make sense to me right now. But if you did mean something by it that you want to keep, then you should absolutely keep it there. Just try and write it a different way. Try and restart the sentence. So here, here we have um, a whole paragraph about giving Tucker's background info, which was really good because you got to get that in there somewhere, and that's not the really interesting part. So we started off with the hook. This hooks the reader in. This is what's going to get people to start reading. So after you give them that, then it's natural to give them the background info. And because they read the first part, and because they know that Calvin Tucker is Trump's man in Philadelphia, they're going to read this part. So I thought it was really smart to put this in the second paragraph. I would even add a little more background info because he has a big career. um, you know, see if there's anything else in here. Personal life and background. My mother and father were both Republican committee people. You know, um, that sort of stuff. A little bit about his personal life. So this is his professional and his career, but what about his personal life? Um, or maybe this goes here after there. So then we move on to a little bit of what he believes. So on what he believes and what he thinks urban America should do, right here. Tucker believes that inner cities need a more focused and business-oriented plan. Business-oriented is hyphenated because like a compound adjective. So it's two words making one adjective. So you want to put a hyphen there. On creating wealth and opportunity, he thinks that quality jobs are the first step to creating a pattern of success and wealth for a family. He thinks to help the economy, you must relieve the tax burdens. The taxes he wants to dull are in business and corporations. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, this is really central to what he believes. He's a businessman. He thinks that businesses need more freedom to expand and stop being taxed, and they'll grow more, and more people will make money. You know, it's the trickle-down theory of economics. The Republicans call it trickle-down. So when businesses do well, that money slowly moves its way down to people who are hired by businesses. That's part of one of their big arguments in all of their political history. He also says the United States has the largest tax rate of the 28 global industrialized countries in the world. This is a great way to end the paragraph because it's a powerful point that he's making, and it's a good way to wrap up his paragraph. I like that a lot. Calvin Tucker has met President Trump on 4 different occasions. See, this is wonderful because you get to sort of the boring stuff, and you're putting the boring stuff in between the interesting stuff. That's how you keep people reading. So, interesting, boring, no, interesting, background, a little bit boring stuff, and then back to Trump. That's good because every time you write Trump, people are going to be interested because this whole thing is about that, and that's what makes it. That's the powerful thing in the story. Ultimately, I supported Donald Trump, and I was appointed to be one of his surrogates in Pennsylvania. He also mentioned one of the 4 occasions he met with Trump. See, I would say you say this twice. You say four occasions twice. So I mean, maybe take this out and just say, ultimately, I supported Trump, and I was appointed to be one of his surrogates in Pennsylvania. He said. So that's the end of that sentence. You can get rid of this one. He also mentions one of the 4 occasions he does meet with Trump. There's another time. I met with him on 4 different occasions. I was a moderator of the panel in North Philly for Donald Trump with 14 other African American business, political, and religious leaders. And we talked about all of the things we talked about here today. Jobs, unemployment. Because Trump went to UPenn Wharton School, so he's very familiar with the industry plans in Frankfurt, the properties in Northern Liberties. If we could turn those plans into productive manufacturing facilities, we could begin to create jobs and opportunities. Then he tells of the time that Trump. All right, so this, if you read this quote here, it's cool. It is a direct quote from Tucker. Tucker does say that. He says, what does he say? All right, let me find it over here in the quotes area. He says, well, Cal, we'll go through a round of questions summarizing. The media was with him. Blah blah blah. It's just not that interesting. I think there's a more interesting Trump quote you can use. And let's see, I have that written down somewhere. He was extremely engaging, he says. So I would put this in instead. This is a good quote. He understands how to communicate with the average person, and the way you communicate is through the media process. I thought he was very engaging, and after the session was over, he had some sidebar discussions, but I thought he was extremely engaging. So I would put this quote here, instead of the one you have. You could talk about the process, about him meeting Trump and how that went. If you want, you could paraphrase. You could say this in your own words and not make a quote. But I would use this quote instead. This one, because this is this is what got Trump elected. He's engaging, and uh, he knows how to talk to the average person. That's important for presidential politics. All right, so moving on. Tucker says about his own politics in the future, politics will be very different in 2020. There's a lot of opposition and skepticism in this new administration. There's going to be a lot of pro and anti groups trying to drive voter turnout, trying to select the best possible candidate. This is probably a new sentence. I think in 2020, everyone's going to size up who will be the best candidate to run against Donald Trump. I'd say even on the conservative side, there will be people who try to run against Trump. Even with what he's done so far, he's a populist. A populist tends to be more center rather than left or right or center, but he's doing things that will disrupt the normal political process. People on the left dislike that kind of discussion because he'll dismantle a lot of policies and programs. People on the right may not like a lot of things too. That's a good quote by Tucker. It's pretty long, um, but I guess that's no big deal. I think it's all relevant here. He later references something that will be in the of Philadelphia. So this is just a typo. That will be in the of Philadelphia. I would say he also talked, he also spoke specifically about the political process in his hometown of Philadelphia. The hometown thing, you should probably get to that sooner. I mean, like I said, this stuff about his background, um, you know, I would say this, you want this in here somewhere. You want this up top. So look to this. I'll link you to this page. If you don't already have this page, I'll link you to it um, so you can draw stuff from here. Let's see. So this now right here is where we get this. Remember the intro paragraph? This is the same idea as that. So we've been doing things a certain ways for X number of years, and Donald Trump is saying no. You were able to chart the economic progress of minority communities from 1950 to 2016 and overlay that with your political leadership. You say income is down, unemployment is down, economic stress is the same. Home ownership among economic minorities, is it up or is it down? The city can encourage home ownership. In any event, those are things that, as an inquisitive society and the new media, you want to look at objectively and come to your own conclusions about what is the real story about politics and community growth. That's good. I'd say that's a good way to end it. I don't think ending it on this quote is quite as strong as it could be. But you might want to write something in yourself, and you're going to want to think um, directly about this. How can you want to end with the same point you started with? I'm trying to think of an interesting way to do that. People say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So he's talking about how people vote for Democrats, but things don't change. People are still poor, and why are we still supporting Democrats? But what could we say? Um, I'm not sure. I might say, you know, Calvin Tucker, he's been working for so long, he's been a Republican for so long. You could say something like, you know, Tucker says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but he's been doing the same thing for 30 years, and he doesn't seem to quit. No, 40 years, right here. 40 years when I first registered in politics. And he doesn't, and he shows no signs of stopping. So there's one option. He's So there's a good way to wrap it up. That's one way, but it's not that good. I don't know. There's something I think you should definitely include somewhere. Um, so this is a really important, uh, aspect of his whole argument. Um, Basically, he says, look, you know, minorities, they only support Democrats, so they're not really represented throughout politics because if if a Republican thought they had a chance of winning in a Latino neighborhood or an African American neighborhood, they might they might do more for them because you have to do something for a community for the community to vote for you. So Tucker says this here. I have a theory, and my theory is 30-30-30. If we were 30% Republican, 30% Democrats, and 30% independents, we'd be able to affect the political process regardless of who's in office. This is really important. This is like it ties back to this and the beginning and his whole point. That's really a really important quote. So where should we put this? Um, you can put it right here. You know, because this is getting back to his, we're talking about what he believes and his importance, the importance he places on industry. So I would put this quote here, or somewhere, maybe even here at the end. It's up to you. Um, let's see what else we got. Oops. Yeah, so here's all the background. One thing I think you should do is just sort of name drop. We want people to know how influential this guy is, how well known he is in the Republican process. So there's a section where he name drops all the people he's met. Here's all the people he's met. George, these are all really, really important, Republican people. Um, so let's get that in. Let's get that in there somewhere. Um, I would say maybe here because we talked about what he believes, and then we're going to circle back to his stature in the Republican world. So you could say, Tucker is well known throughout the East Coast and the U.S. general. He's met George and Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, I'm not sure what he means by 13 Republican legislators, um, and a long list of other Republican legislators. He was in Washington on in January lobbying for the Community Development Financial Institution. I might just include his quote here. So let's just leave that there and say I've met Donald Trump. This is in red, so it's a quote. George Bush, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and the 13 I guess he means the 13 Republican legislators from Pennsylvania. I was in Washington 3 weeks ago lobbying for the community. You know what? I think this is not good as I was wrong. This is not good as a quote. It's too long. We have too many quotes. Let's go back here. Institution, institution, Dwight Ebbett. I call him a friend and raise money for him, even though he's a. I think he means Dwight Evans. I think that's what. So Dwight Evans. Yeah, this is a Democratic. He meant Dwight Evans, not Dwight Ebbett. I think my girlfriend translated this wrong, transcribed this wrong. Okay, okay. Even though he's a Democrat, he's on a first name basis with Pat Toomey, former Senator Arlen Specter, Governor Dick Thornburg, Tom Corbett, Michael, Nutter, I call him a friend. Leave that out. John Street and Milton Street. So those are old mayors and politicians from the city. Yeah, we're letting people know how involved he is. That's good stuff. Yeah, this article should be pretty long. It's getting there. We could get a little more specific about. I mean, we want to include immigration stuff, right? 'Cause, I mean, we have a lot of people want to hear how Tucker can support Trump even though he wants to ban Mexicans and other people. So we need to cover how he justifies that. So let's find immigration. How do you feel about a stance on immigration harmful to the American economy? No, I don't. I try to distinguish immigration versus undocumented immigration. These individuals try to deport would be the ones who came with criminal backgrounds. So I think there's validity to it. And as I said about immigration in general, we need to mix that up. Immigration isn't going anywhere. We're a nation of immigrants. We will continue to be. So this is fine. This is a good quote. That's just a direct quote to how he justifies. I think our question was to him was, uh, do we think it's harmful to the American economy or do we think it's racist? And this is him saying no. So that's fine just to quote that. Um, Now I think as far as where to structure this and where to put this in, it would be, we're going over his beliefs. So we got taxes, the economy, how he supported Trump. Um, I think it goes about here. It goes at the end. It's on the list of issues. So here's his quote. We'll say, um, the newspaper staff brought up Trump's opposition to immigration and whether or not Tucker thinks it's I think the question was what we'll say it's ethical. We don't want to say racist. We're not sure we asked him that, so we'll say ethical because that was our question, something like that. So it would be general. He said, "quote No, I don't. As I try to distinguish immigration versus undocumented immigration. The individuals he try. Let's start a new sentence here. The individuals he tried to deport would be the ones who came with a criminal background. So I think that has a validity to it. And as I said about immigration in general, when you're writing quotes, you don't need to be really perfectly punctual. You can start a sentence with and. And as I said about immigration in general, we tend to mix that up. Immigration isn't going anywhere. We are a nation of immigrants, and we will continue to welcome immigrants who are documented, as opposed to being in a community for years and years without being recognized as to who they are. I'm not exactly sure what that means, so let's just get rid of it and just end it there. You can end a quote whenever you want. You don't have to use the whole thing. So this is okay. Let's make this bigger. Okay. So anything else we need here? Let's see. I think maybe after that we could follow with a little bit about racism and Trump. So there are some Americans that are racist. Some are afraid of immigrants, some are afraid of Cal Tucker. I like how he refers to himself in the third person. It's kind of funny, like an old man. Because Cal Tucker happens to be an African American, so I'm not going to blanketly deny racism, institutional, collective. institutional or collective exists across this land. Dr. Cornel West wrote a book about race matters. It's called Race Matters. Why does he say about? I think my girlfriend did a bad job transcribing this. Race is always a discussion. I'm not suggesting that. See, this is like it's hard to quote this guy because of the way he talks. This is like this sentence has no relevance in this paragraph, but the first part and the second part do. So let's put this here. And let's give us a little bit of context because the big question is, you know, he's African American, but he's voted for Trump, and people think Trump's racist. So let's give us some context and say you know when talking about African American Trump supporter, race is sort of the elephant in the room. It's sort of like that's the first thing you think about. It's like, oh, what? So so that sets up this paragraph. We asked Tucker whether or not he thought Trump was racist and whether or not um, opposition to racism factors into his political life. He said, you can tell this guy's a politician because he sort of avoids the question. Um, so this is one quote. Um, okay, so that's one sentence. We can't. Oops. All right, so that's that. And then he says, race is always a discussion. I'm not suggesting that Donald Trump or Cal Tucker is, but there are some people who are. So their own view of what Puritanism is in America should look like. He doesn't really deny it, but I mean it's still a relevant quote, so we'll just put that there. Um, so we'll put a quote there. I'll say he he went on to mention uh, Dr. Cornel West, and for those of you who don't know, Dr. Cornel West is a really famous African American scholar and academic who writes about race. And his wisdom before adding, comma, and then you add that, oops, oh, for adding, quote, bam. So that's that. So now we got his, what he said on racism covered. I wish, it would be nice to see him address the situation of Latino Americans a little bit harder, but he's a politician. He's not going to do that. So we gotta work with what we got. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. I'm going to take one last look around um, this and see if there's anything else. Oh wow, okay. So it says here, I had a great experience. We asked him about what it's like being in the media and being, sort of famous. So I had a great experience. I didn't expect a lot of things that the media would do. They sent cars and then went to New York and rented restaurants just for me. Bloomberg TV, CNN Tower, Atlanta, MSNBC, Fox. Um, oh wow, this is funny. We should put this in. He talked about getting death threats and people wanted to beat him up because he supported Trump. He says, I hope you invite me for my wheelchair. So I'd say put this at the end. So let's look at the order here. Let's look at the structure. So intro, background, beliefs, Trump, background, Trump, racism slash Trump, beliefs. I think at the end will be a good place to wrap up, who this person is and what we thought of him by talking about his personal experience and media and coverage and stuff like that. So let's see if you can write a paragraph here. New paragraph. Good experiences being famous or well known. Bad experiences. The quote about inviting me from my wheelchair, death threats, etc. I hope the wheelchair thing isn't offensive. Let's start the paragraph by saying, you know, American Tucker is very valuable to people, to conservatives who want to reach across the aisle. So reaching across the aisle means, like the other political parties. So like people want to reach across the aisle, they want to talk to Democrats, and that Calvin Tucker is very valuable to them because they can do that. When Trump found out Tucker existed, he supported him. He's probably like, oh my God, this is great because I can show that, hey, look, I have an African American on my side, someone who's from North Philadelphia on my side. So you can talk about how he's valuable to them and how this has certainly helped to bolster his career. And then we asked Tucker about his experiences in recent years and during recent elections of being well known. He said, all right, they put his quote here. Good quote here. Good quote. It hasn't been all all right, so that's how you set up quotes. You give it a little bit of context and then you stick it in there. The best things he said. So I think this will turn out pretty good. Um, see if you. I'm gonna challenge you, Moses. You did a great job, man. Really did. I'll see if you can end this paragraph well. See if you can come up with something better than this. If you can't, no big deal. But if you can find some other way to sum up everything that this guy thinks and says and this whole situation and the whole Trump craziness, find another way to sum it up at the end, be my guest. But great job, and let me know if you have any questions. I hope to see your final draft soon. Your final draft, your final draft won't have any changes. I'll fix up the grammar and stuff, and it'll be all good to go. So very good job on this.